Nobody told you this was going to happen. Nobody sat you down at 55 and said, listen, if that belly keeps growing, here is exactly what it is going to do to your testosterone, your erections, and the size of your penis. Nobody warned you. Not your doctor, not your father, nobody. And because nobody told you, you did what any reasonable man would do. You assumed the changes you started noticing were just part of getting older. The weaker erections, the vanishing drive, the reflection in the mirror that no longer looks like you remember. You accepted it. Because what other explanation was there? Here is the explanation. Here is what nobody told you. For every 35 pounds of excess body fat a man carries in his abdominal region, he loses approximately 1 inch of visible penile length. Not because the penis is physically shrinking, but because the fat pad surrounding it is growing, burying it deeper, hiding it further from the surface. That is not a theory. That is documented in peer-reviewed urology research. But here's what the research does not fully capture, because no number can. The psychological weight of watching your body change and not knowing why. The conversations that stop happening between a man and his partner. The bedroom that goes quiet. The confidence that disappears so gradually that by the time you notice it is gone, you cannot remember the last time you felt like yourself. That is what belly fat actually costs a man over 60. Not just inches, everything attached to those inches. I am Dr. Julia Rhodes, and this video exists because those costs are not inevitable, and because the men who understand what is actually happening have a real, proven path to reverse it. You are about to become one of those men. Do not go anywhere. If this is your first time on this channel, subscribe and turn on notifications right now if you want that kind of content every single week. What I share here has the potential to change not just your health, but your relationship, your confidence, and the entire quality of the years ahead of you. Now, let us get into the full picture of what is happening inside your body and why that belly fat is far more dangerous than you have ever been led to believe. You already know the number. 35 pounds of belly fat costs a man 1 inch of visible penile length. But that number tells only a fraction of the story. Because the fat pad burying your length is just one of 3 simultaneous attacks your belly fat is running on your body right now. 3 separate mechanisms, all working at the same time, all feeding into each other, all quietly accelerating the longer they go unaddressed. You deserve to understand all 3 of them, completely and clearly. The first attack, your hormones. Inside every fat cell packed into your abdominal region lives an enzyme called aromatase. Aromatase has one function. It takes your testosterone and converts it directly into estrogen. Not slowly, not occasionally, constantly. And the more belly fat you carry, the greater your aromatase activity, and the faster that conversion happens. Now, here is why this is especially devastating for men over 60. Your testosterone has already been declining naturally since your late 30s, approximately 1 to 2% every year. By the time most men reach 60, they are already operating at testosterone levels that are significantly lower than they were in their prime. The aromatase activity that your belly fat is driving does not work on top of a healthy baseline. It works on top of one that is already compromised. It accelerates a decline that was already in motion. The result is a man who is functionally testosterone deficient, experiencing real hormonal collapse, who has been told by his doctor. that his numbers are normal for his age. Normal for his age does not mean healthy. It does not mean optimal. It means average within a population of men who are largely in the same declining state. It is like being told your house is on fire at a normal rate for your neighborhood. Low testosterone does not arrive with a dramatic announcement. It creeps in through the back door. It shows up in the exhaustion you feel before noon, in the irritability that visits you without invitation, in the emotional flatness, the way things that used to excite you now barely register, in the muscle that has been quietly disappearing from your frame, in the mental fog that makes you feel like you are thinking through wet concrete, and of course, in the bedroom, in the drive that has gone silent, in the erections that no longer show up with the confidence and reliability they once did. Every one of those experiences connects back to testosterone, and your belly fat has been draining it for years. The second attack, your blood vessels. An erection is, at its core, a blood flow event. When arousal occurs, blood is driven forcefully into two cylindrical chambers inside the penis, called the corpora cavernosa. Those chambers fill with blood, creating the pressure and rigidity of a full erection. There's nothing complicated about the process, but it depends entirely on blood vessels that are healthy, flexible, and capable of dilating rapidly on demand. Belly fat attacks that system directly. The visceral fat packed around your internal organs releases inflammatory molecules called cytokines into your bloodstream. Those cytokines attack the inner lining of your blood vessels, a layer called the endothelium, causing it to become chronically inflamed, thickened, and increasingly inelastic. A damaged endothelium produces less nitric oxide, which is the molecule your body uses to signal blood vessels to relax and open. Less nitric oxide means restricted dilation. Restricted dilation means blood that cannot surge powerfully into the penile tissue. The result is softer erections, incomplete erections, erections that require conscious effort, and erections that fade without warning. But here is the part I need you to hear clearly, because it is bigger than the bedroom. The blood vessels in the penis are among the smallest in the human body. They show damage first. But the inflammatory process destroying those vessels is not limited to the penis. It is happening in the vessels that supply your heart. It is happening in the vessels that supply your brain. When a man over 60 tells me his erections have been in gradual decline for 2 or 3 years, I do not think only about his sexual health. I think about his cardiovascular health. Because cardiologists now recognize erectile dysfunction as a genuine early warning signal for heart disease. What is happening below the belt is a preview of what is coming for the rest of the cardiovascular system if the underlying cause goes unaddressed. Your belly fat is not just affecting your sex life, it is threatening your life. The third attack, your nerves. This is the mechanism that gets the least attention and does some of the most lasting damage. Belly fat causes insulin resistance. When your cells stop responding properly to insulin, your body compensates by producing more of it, and your blood sugar begins to rise. Even at borderline levels, the kind that gets a brief mention in your annual blood work and a casual recommendation to watch your diet, chronically elevated blood sugar causes what is called peripheral neuropathy. It damages the small nerves throughout your body, and some of the most sensitive and important nerves in your body run directly through your penis. When those nerves are damaged, the signals that travel between the brain and the genitals become weak and inconsistent. The sensitivity that used to make sexual experience vivid and responsive begins to dull. Men find they need dramatically more stimulation to feel aroused. They find that the physical sensations during intercourse have muted, that the feedback loop between stimulus and response has slowed and become unreliable. And eventually, the nerve signals that initiate and maintain an erection become so degraded that mechanical dysfunction follows. Here's what makes this particularly alarming. Studies estimate that a significant proportion of men over 60 are currently pre-diabetic and are entirely unaware of it. Their blood work sits in the gray zone, their doctor monitors it, and their nerve endings absorb the damage quietly, month after month, with no dramatic symptoms to force the issue into urgency. 3 attacks, 1 source, and it has been running inside your body, perhaps for years, while you assumed it was just age. It is not just age. I want to walk through what these 3 attacks look like in real daily life, not in clinical language, in the language of what a man actually experiences. Read through each of these honestly. Nobody is watching. Nobody is judging. This is just you and the truth. Your erections have changed. They are softer than they used to be. They do not fill completely. They are less reliable. Sometimes they disappear mid-encounter with no warning and no explanation. You have started to dread that possibility before intimacy even begins, which creates its own layer of anxiety that makes the problem worse. Your sex drive has gone quiet. Not just lower, quiet. There are days and sometimes weeks where the thought does not cross your mind. When desire does surface, it feels distant and muted, like remembering something rather than feeling it. The man who used to think about sex easily and often has been replaced by someone who rarely thinks about it at all. You may have normalized this. You should not. Your penis looks different than it used to. Smaller in certain moments, certain temperatures, certain times of day. You have noticed it. You may have dismissed it as your imagination or chalked it up to age. It is not your imagination. The fat pad surrounding the base of your penis has grown. It is burying a portion of the shaft that used to be visible and functional. That is real, it is measurable, and as you now know, it is reversible. You are persistently tired, not occasionally fatigued after a long day, consistently drained. You sleep a reasonable number of hours and wake up unrestored. You push through the morning on willpower. You hit a wall in the afternoon. The energy that used to carry you through a full day without effort has simply left. Your body composition has shifted without explanation. Belly fat is accumulating even though your eating habits have not dramatically changed. Muscle is disappearing from your arms, your legs, your chest, even without reducing your activity. Your clothes fit differently. Your strength in the gym or in daily physical tasks has declined. This is what low testosterone does to the male body. It tips the hormonal balance in the direction of fat storage and muscle loss simultaneously. Your mood and mental state have shifted. There is a heaviness, an irritability, a quiet loss of motivation that sits with you regardless of circumstances. You may have attributed it to stress or the natural psychology of getting older, but it follows you into the good days too. That is not a life issue. That is a hormonal one. You have been pulling away from intimacy. Not consciously, but the physical closeness, the spontaneous affection, the willingness to initiate that used to come naturally has been replaced by avoidance. The distance has grown slowly enough that neither you nor your partner have addressed it directly, but it is there, and you both feel it. Every single one of those experiences is the direct consequence of the 3 biological attacks I just described. Every one of them has a cause. Every one of them has a solution. And every one of them gets harder to reverse the longer the underlying source continues to operate unchallenged. Here is the part that nobody who has already crossed certain thresholds gets to hear. Here is the part I wish every one of the men I have seen come to me too late had received years earlier. The body is reversible, even at 60, even at 65, even at 70. The hormonal damage, the vascular impairment, the buried length, the lost sensitivity, these are not permanent sentences. They are the biological consequences of a specific identifiable problem. And when you remove that problem, the body begins to correct itself. I have watched it happen with my own eyes in real men over and over again. Here is exactly how it is done. Step 1. Dismantle the fuel source. Visceral belly fat feeds primarily on insulin. Insulin spikes are caused by refined carbohydrates and sugar. Every time you eat white bread, white rice, pasta, pastries, sugary drinks, or processed breakfast cereals, your insulin surges. And that insulin surge sends a direct signal to your body to store fat, specifically in the visceral abdominal region. That fat produces more aromatase. More aromatase produces less testosterone. Less testosterone makes it harder to burn fat, and the cycle continues. You break this cycle at the food level first, not by starving yourself, by eliminating the foods that spike insulin most aggressively and replacing them with lean proteins, vegetables, legumes, eggs, healthy fats, and whole foods that keep your blood sugar and insulin stable throughout the day. When you do this consistently, visceral fat begins to reduce. Aromatase activity begins to decline. Testosterone begins to recover. The fat pad surrounding your penis begins to shrink. The buried length begins to return. This is the first and most powerful lever you have, and it costs nothing. Step 2. Force your body to produce testosterone. Cardiovascular exercise will improve your heart health. But if you are trying to directly stimulate testosterone production and accelerate visceral fat loss at the same time, you need resistance training. Lifting weights, using resistance bands, performing bodyweight exercises, these activities create a hormonal demand that the body responds to by producing testosterone. They build and preserve muscle tissue, and muscle is metabolically active. It burns fat even while you are sitting still. Men over 60 who perform resistance training 2 to 3 times per week consistently show testosterone levels and body composition profiles that are dramatically better than men the same age who only walk or do light cardio. You do not need a gym. You do not need a trainer. You need a set of compound movements, squats, rows, presses, hinges, performed at moderate intensity for 20 to 30 minutes, 3 times per week. Start there. Add weight gradually. Your body will respond. Step 3. Treat your sleep as a medical intervention. The majority of your daily testosterone is produced during deep sleep. Men who sleep fewer than 6 hours per night have testosterone levels equivalent to men a full decade older than their actual age. That single habit is compacting a decade of hormonal aging into every poor night of rest. Stop drinking alcohol close to bedtime. It destroys sleep architecture regardless of how fast it knocks you out. Keep your bedroom cold and completely dark. Remove screens from the room. Consider magnesium glycinate before bed, which has strong clinical evidence for improving deep sleep quality in older men. Your sleep is not passive recovery. For testosterone, it is the most productive hours of your entire day. Step 4. Declare war on chronic stress. Cortisol is testosterone's most direct biological opponent. When cortisol is chronically elevated because of financial pressure, health anxiety, relationship tension, or the accumulated weight of decades of unresolved stress, it actively suppresses testosterone and signals the body to store fat in the abdominal region. You cannot out-train or out-eat chronic cortisol. You must address it directly. Build a non-negotiable daily stress release practice, whether that is meditation, structured breathing, prayer, long walks, journaling, therapy, or any combination. It does not need to be sophisticated. It needs to be consistent. A man who manages his cortisol well carries a biological advantage that compounds over months and years in ways no supplement can replicate. Step 5. Know your actual hormone numbers. If you have been relating to the symptoms in this video, do not guess about your hormone status. Go to your doctor and ask, specifically for a full testosterone panel: total testosterone, free testosterone, and SHBG. Those 3 numbers together give you the full picture. Free testosterone is what your body can actually use, and it is often critically low in men whose total testosterone registers as technically normal. Many men have been dismissed with a total testosterone reading, while their free testosterone is the number of a man in hormonal crisis. Know your numbers, all of them. And if they reveal a clinical deficiency, know that testosterone replacement therapy, properly supervised by a qualified medical professional, is a legitimate, evidence-based intervention that, combined with everything else I have described, can produce results that feel genuinely transformative. It is not a shortcut. It is not weakness. It is medicine, the same as any other hormonal therapy for any other endocrine deficiency. Step 6. Remove what is working against you invisibly. There are synthetic compounds present in everyday modern life, in plastics, in pesticides, in many personal care and household products, that behave as estrogen mimics inside the human body. They are called endocrine disruptors. For a man who is already battling elevated estrogen from aromatase activity, daily exposure to these compounds is like pouring water into a fire you are trying to build. Stop heating food in plastic containers. Transition to glass or stainless steel for your food and water storage. Choose fragrance-free personal care products where possible. Buy organic for the produce you eat most frequently. These are not dramatic sacrifices. They are small, cumulative adjustments that remove an ongoing hormonal headwind from your daily life. Step 7. Supplement with precision. A targeted supplement protocol will not replace the other 6 steps. But layered on top of them, the right supplements close the gap meaningfully faster. Zinc is essential to testosterone synthesis and deficient in the majority of men over 60. Vitamin D is directly involved in testosterone production. Men with optimal levels show significantly higher testosterone, and most men over 60 are deficient, especially through winter months. Ashwagandha is a clinically tested adaptogen shown in multiple controlled trials to measurably reduce cortisol and increase testosterone in men. L-citrulline is an amino acid that elevates nitric oxide production in the blood vessels, directly improving vascular dilation and blood flow to the penile tissue. Discuss each with your doctor before adding them, but understand that the evidence behind all four is real, peer-reviewed, and specific to exactly the problems you are dealing with. I want to finish the way I started, with the plain, undecorated truth. There are men watching this video right now who will recognize themselves in everything I have described. They will feel the weight of that recognition. And then they will close this video and go back to accepting the decline, because acting feels harder than continuing to absorb it quietly. I have seen what happens to those men 12 months later. The damage that accumulated, the thresholds crossed that could have been avoided, the relationship distance that hardened into something far more difficult to bridge. I am not telling you this to frighten you. I am telling you because the version of this story where you act now is genuinely available to you today. The men I have watched recover, who got their energy back, their erections back, their confidence back, and their marriages back, were not extraordinary cases. They were men who made a decision on a day exactly like this one, watching something exactly like this, and chose not to wait any longer. That choice is yours right now. Before you leave, 5 things. Hit the like button. It puts this video in front of more men who are sitting in the same silence you were in before you pressed play. Subscribe and turn on the bell. Every week, I publish content built specifically for men over 60 who refuse to accept a diminished version of themselves. Share this video today. There is a man in your life who needs to see this and will never search for it himself. The shame of this topic keeps men suffering for years. You sending this could change that. Leave a comment below with how many symptoms you related to. I read every one personally. Your comment also helps this video reach more people, so do not hold back. And check the description box right now. My free testosterone recovery guide for men over 60 is there, along with the studies I referenced and the video I recommend you watch next. Nobody told you before today, but you have been told now. What you do next is everything. I am Dr. Julia Rhodes. I will see you in the next video.